ingredients one more time. So you need your pie crust, your can of evaporated milk, your butter, your sweet potatoes, some vanilla extract, your white sugar, some flour, your cinnamon, nutmeg, and your 2 eggs. Okay, so my next step is to take my sweet potatoes and put them in my sink and rinse them off. After I rinse them off, I'll go ahead and fill up my pot with some water, and I'll go ahead and cook them on high heat from anywhere between 40 to 50 minutes, just depending on the size of your sweet potato. So now that my sweet potatoes are cooking, I'm going to go ahead and start working on our pie crust. So the first step is to make sure that you spray down your pie pan. I usually buy the pie crust that's already been made just because it's easier to roll out and work with. I do take it out of the fridge 20 minutes before I start working on my pies, just so it has time to thaw out. You want to make sure that you get all the corners really well, because you will see that air pockets do get into your crust and you don't want those there, so just make sure you work them out. So after you do that, this is what your final pie crust product should look like, and we'll go ahead and start working on our filling. Okay, so what I do is I go ahead and take my fork and just poke through my sweet potatoes to check if they're tender. If they are, that means they're cooked. So what you can do now is go ahead and put your strainer in your sink, run some cold water on top of your sweet potatoes, and then just drain them. So what I do is I normally let them sit from 15 to 20 minutes, just so that they have time to cool down and it's easier to peel. That way you're not like burning your fingertips as you peel them. So you'll go ahead and start peeling them. In the peeling process, I like to remove any brown spots, or just like the old spots on the sweet potatoes. That way they don't go into your pie filling. So we'll go ahead and peel our sweet potatoes. Okay, so now our sweet potatoes are all peeled. We're going to go ahead and add our ingredients. First, I like to start off with my cup of sugar, and then I'll go ahead and pour in my can of evaporated milk. Next, we'll go ahead and do our spices. With the spices, just make sure that you are careful with how much you put into your pie, just because you don't want it to overpower the flavor. So with the nutmeg, I go ahead and do 1 teaspoon, and then I do 3 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. After our spices, we're going to go ahead and crack in our eggs. I like to do 2 medium eggs. So there goes 1 and 2. Also, excuse me if you hear some cartoons in the background. I actually have to do my voiceovers with my daughter in the room, so I hope you guys like Paw Patrol. So next we're going to go ahead and add our vanilla extract. Again, I just like to do a teaspoon of it. There it goes. Okay, so next comes our flour. With the flour, I like to pour it in a little bit at a time. So I'll pour in about half of my measurement, and then I'll go ahead and grab my spatula and just start breaking down those big chunks of sweet potato. That way when I pull out my mixer, it'll be easier for me to puree it. So make sure you really break down those sweet potato and get a good mix. The reason I call my recipe Grandma's Sweet Potato Pie is because my husband's grandmother was the one who showed me this recipe. I remember when I was pregnant, I was having a hard time with morning sickness, and the only thing I could really keep down was sweet potato pie. So it's definitely become one of our family favorites. Now that we have our mix, we're going to go ahead and pour that into our pie crust. I also forgot to mention, I went ahead and preheated my oven to 375 degrees. So what I'll do is I'll pour it in, and then in the oven it'll go. So remember, 375 degrees, set your timer for 15 minutes. After the 15 minutes are up, I'll go ahead and turn my oven down to 350 degrees, and I'll go ahead and just cook it for an additional 30 minutes. Okay friends, so here's our final product. As you can see, our crust is golden and our filling is cooked through. I really hope you've enjoyed this recipe and this video. I do hope you subscribe and follow our Instagram page at Lucy Locks Creations. And if you decide to try this recipe out, feel free to tag me in your post. I hope you guys have a great day and God bless.